Okay. I should probably sit up. Mm. Okay, I'm restarting. So, yeah. Boycotting. I had enough. I've had enough. I'm gonna just start my story time. Anybody joins me, and somebody joins me. Okay. Anyway, so there was a time about like a few years ago. I was at my job and I worked at a gym, and this lady kind of was like, "Oh, so do you only like work at the gym?" And I was like, "No, I really like I work somewhere else as well, but I'm still looking for like a job or whatever." So, um, so anyway, so I'm telling you a story about how I got caught up in a pyramid period scheme. Really, Jada? A pyramid scheme. Pyramid pyramid scheme. Anyway, so I was working at the gym, and um, this woman had came up to me, and she was like, and she was like, "Yeah, so my husband he works for like Nike, and just kind of saying like kind of like big names, like just obviously putting out big names to get somebody interested. Like, oh, you work for like you work with Nike. Like, oh, okay, cool. Like, whatever." And when people when they're telling their story and they go like whoop de whoop de woo, like I'm not, but it just made me laugh. Anyway, so yeah, so why did basically she was like, okay, so first you have to kind of like do an interview with, you have to meet with me and my husband, and we just have to see how we like you, or like, if you would fit, right? So, I set up this appointment. We meet at like a cafe near where we worked. And, basically he's like, yeah. So so basically they're like, hey, like we work for some, like, not implying that they work for someone, they were implying that they work for themselves, but like, through this business that they have, like they were able to work for themselves and be able to like create like some type of income for themselves. And I was like, okay, working for yourself, like that's fine, like that's like really, that's really dope. Like, who wouldn't want to work for themselves anyway? So so I passed this first interview. Basically, I'm like, yeah, I just want to like make money for my mom, and like, basically saying my intent, which was behind like me wanting to do this, whatever. People will find this video, it doesn't matter to me. Anyway, so what happened? I know what happened. I'm just trying to get my footing right. Um, so after like like the first initial interview, like we moved to like this call interview where, I'm talking to like somebody who's higher who's higher in this pyramid, and he's trying to like basically say his expectations of like the of what you're supposed to be doing or whatever. And I'm like, okay, hello, like I didn't even think it was going to be like all like this, but I kind of looked into the business, and it was one of those businesses where you kind of had to like you have to tell your friends to buy something for you so you can like get money back, and like all these things, and like all this stuff. um it's really gonna make me mad if I like see a little spooker in my nose and I didn't get it, and it's really gonna make me mad, so I'm just gonna like keep it right here. Okay. And so, you know oh my gosh, and during that time, let me tell you, so I got listen, we there was basically like there was basically like a meeting at the Omni Hotel, and it was like this huge like district meeting or whatever, right? And I like saw a girl that I had went to the gym with, because anyway, I go to classes with her, and I was like, whoa, okay, like you're here too, like that's cool, like weird, okay, what do you like, who recruited you, how did they, like, how they recruit you or whatever. And so she was telling me, and I was like, oh wow, they recruited me too, that's so cool, like what a coincidence. Okay. And so not everything can be perfect. Relax, relax, calm yourself. This is alive. What you see is what you're gonna get. It's alive. What more can I do? What more can I do? To the people who are not watching this live, I'm having a mental breakdown right now. This isn't a mental breakdown. Hold on. But anyway, so I'm basically like listening to them explain this pyramid scheme in this really nice hotel, and I'm like, okay, this seems legit. Like this seems legit. Like we're talking about big name brands, big name brands. We're talking about big name brands. We're in an Omni Hotel, and like you like get selected if your energy is well. If your energy isn't well, then you're like, then it's not for you. Well, my energy was well enough to do it, right? But then I peeped game that this was a freaking pyramid scheme. And I was like, actually, I'm really not interested anymore. Like, I don't know. It just felt like, I was listening to this recording of the owner of the pyramid telling about how like his family's riches and everything. And I was kind of like, okay, well, it's starting to seem like a little cult, right? Because you're asking me to read a book, recite the book, in this like little this voice memo that I have to make sure I'm listening to. Like basically make sure you're brainwashing yourself with this information because you need to eat, breathe, this, sleep this thing on information, right? You need eat, breathe, sleep it, okay? And I'm like, okay, well, I'm peeping game. The way that it's all starting to sound repetitive. Everybody's saying the from one tier of the pyramid to the next tier of the pyramid to the top of the tier of the pyramid, like the top of the tier is saying like one thing, and then everybody's like, okay, that's all we need to say, and that's a business, like that's all you need to tell people, recruit them, tell them this, and we're going to tell them the exact same thing. Like, so it's like, okay, is there any more new information? And you're like, basically you have it all. Okay, well, guess what, like, really? Anyway, so I'm like shook. I'm like basically shook. But I was talking to the girl that I got recruited with, and I'm just like, I'm just like, girl, let's not do this anymore. Like, let's not do this at all. Because of course I'm gonna be like, well, she was older than me, but I was the one like telling her, like, I low-key don't even feel comfortable doing this. Like, I don't feel comfortable doing this. Like, the way that this is so shady. Like, it's very much, it's just shady. Like, it's just very shady. And they were like, basically, I was like, yeah, like, I'm going to the military, in which I was looking forward, like, I'm not looking forward, but I was actually interested in going to the military at that time. And I kind of used that as my excuse to get out of the scheme. Like, I can't do this, and they're like, you can do it in the military, and I'm like, no, no, I get what you're doing. I don't want to do, like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do it. I don't. So X me out, like, X me out, like, X me out of all this process. Like, I don't want to be like a candidate. I don't like take my whole name out the thing. Like, take it out. Like, uh, when you're like doing, like, when you're moving forward to something and you're like, yeah, I'm so excited. And when it gets close, like what you've been asking for, like as you get close, you're like, you start to run. Like, that's that's me. I feel like that's everybody in a situation, one way, shape, or form. Like, you know, I know I'm like a little self-conscious because my video was 45 minutes last time. I'm like, whatever. So I'm just gonna tell my story, even though I'm bad at telling stories, but check it out. All right. I think I came on here to just tell my story. Maybe I'll do one later.